as there's more technologies out there, there's also a big emphasis on how to vet these technologies. How do you evaluate AI systems? What to look at? What metrics to measure? Whether it's accuracy or speed of delivery of insights, or that comprises of 150,000 images. Our systems completed that inspection in 12 hours versus that would have manually taken them a year and a half, 2 years.
Welcome to the Buzz and Beyond podcast. I'm Ethan O'Connell, Director of Operations and Sales Development here at Buzz. And today's guest is Vik Chaudhry, the co-founder and CTO of Buzz Solutions. Our topic today is staying on the theme of leading transformation, but we'll be hearing it from the founder's perspective and in applying technology to create business value. So, Vik, thanks for joining us today.
Ethan, thank you for having me, and it's great to be here.
Awesome. I want to start back in 2017. You and Caitlin co-founded Buzz Solutions. I'm curious to hear a bit more about what opportunities did you see to apply new technology in this space? What was the impetus of founding this company?
Yeah, that's a great time to be in that business as well. But 2017 feels like such a long time ago. A lot has changed. We launched out of Stanford University in 2017. My prime goal was to, as a technologist, was to apply cutting edge technology to sectors that really needed help. And coming from a background in energy engineering, that was top of the mind for me. So at the start of the company, we really recognized a big need in the energy sector, specifically on infrastructure management and infrastructure inspections. And these were the early days when utilities were still trying to POC drones and use drones and pilot drones to collect more data for the infrastructure, even before the big fires in California in 2018. So the goal was, how can we use cutting edge technology with the background in machine learning, AI, and computer vision specifically to solve some of the business problems of the clients? And when we launched the company, we talked to a lot of different utilities through some of the network, through Stanford, through some of our partners. And we realized that every single one of those utilities was saying that there's a big problem that's coming on the infrastructure inspection side of things, and we need more technology infusion in that space. So that became the prime goal. I'm coming from a technology background. I met my co-founder Caitlin at Stanford, coming from a more business and finance background. So that was a complementary mix of skill sets, and we both were very passionate and enthusiastic about this space and how this space can grow and how technology will play a big role in driving value for the energy sector in general. So that was the first, we foresaw the need early on, and then had to wait a little bit for the industry to mature. But eventually, our prediction kind of panned out pretty well. And yeah, that was a great time to launch. And then we have already grown the company quite a bit in these years.
Mhm. So, you identified the need in the industry. I've only been in the industry for a couple of years now, but even when I joined a couple of years ago, it still seemed like we're a bit ahead of the utility industry in terms of being ready for those conversations. Not every utility had drones, not every utility was ready to talk about AI. So even back in 2017, I'm really curious, how are you guys breaking through all that noise and gaining that trust, especially because in the utility space, trust is so important and those relationships are so important, but you were brand new. So how did you break through that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think utilities were at interesting stage, starting from 2014 to 2017, 2018. They were piloting a lot of drone technologies at that time. And there were some really cutting edge utilities, using drones to test out how can they advance their inspection goals around the infrastructure, whether it's high voltage transmission, low voltage distribution, everything in between, and how can they do it much more efficiently. Traditionally, utilities used helicopters to do, line inspections, and that was proving to be a not very safe. There were a lot of helicopter crashes that used to happen. B, I were not able to do more frequent inspections with such big aerial vehicles, and C, that was costing a lot of money. So drones became, from 2010 when they launched, from toys to actual tools for utilities during that time frame. They were still facing the problem of data, because as you do more inspections, which is great because now you're maintaining and monitoring the infrastructure much more frequently and faster and proactively, but that bodes the problem of data itself. You are generating so much data in that space.
Yeah.
Surprisingly and shockingly, we actually got our first data sets in 2017 through a utility that actually physically mailed us, VHS drives, thumb drives, and and hard drives and CDs. So we are some of our first data sets were actually very, very analog in nature, and we had to convert them to digital. But over the time, we have seen a lot of penetration of cloud technologies over the years for utilities. They have used centralized software tools in their ecosystem to centralize all this data in one single location to break data siloing efforts. And we were one of the players, early players in that market and the industry for them to kind of go through that process with us. But there were other players in the market as well that helped them deploy cloud technologies. So everything after the drone data collection piece was all related to data and analytics, and we were fitting at the right place at the right time for utilities at that point. And another great thing was we partnered with some early organizations early on. For example, EPRI, which is a research institute, Electric Power Research Institute. We went through some utility focused accelerators as a startup that really helped us get into the ecosystem, build those connections, build those trust. And one good thing that we convey to utilities is we want to build it with you. We want to use the crawl, walk, and run approach. We don't want to bring a technology just to showcase the innovative side of things. We want to bring a technology that actually brings value to your business cases, and that really resonated with utilities at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hear that same kind of terminology in the conversations we're having today. And fast forwarding to today, there's a lot more noise around this type of technology, right? There's a lot more AI companies popping up. I think other people have figured out the same gap that you and Kaylin figured out back in 2017. And so I'm curious, how are we as a company differentiating ourselves from a technology perspective from those competitors that are popping up? And also, how are we differentiating ourselves from the noise around AI as well?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And we launched before the big hype of the AI large language model, generation. So we were actually building really data science rooted capabilities, and there was a lot more science behind it instead of just like large language models learning from a black box approach. So at the start of the company, we were early players in the market. We kind of had a first mover advantage over there. So over the first, few years, we built a lot of data moat in this space. We were an AI company, so data is the fuel for our technology. So we realized early on that we have to invest in data. We have to collect the right data. We have to build a data repository that is quality data and is also mapped to the taxonomy of the utilities. How do you label that data set that you're capturing in your tool belt? Another interesting thing in the space is the data is very proprietary. We are dealing with critical infrastructure data, so it's not out in public domain. So if you decide to run a large language model and train it, it becomes really tough even today to because there's not enough data in public domain. So over the years, what we did was our first focus was let's build this data moat. Let's differentiate ourselves on good quality data, and how we label that data is in accordance with all the frameworks and protocols of the energy industry. So the IEEE standards, the NERC and FERC frameworks, all of those things. And that will feed to the model architectures. So first we've solved the problem of data moat, increasing our data moat to a flywheel effect. We were then able to funnel that to build really strong AI models over the years, and very much focused on a lot of different components of the infrastructure, very high level of accuracy, of precision and recall. And that has really helped us kind of feed the machine. So the more data our systems get, the models learn even more. But the models have guardrails around them because they are so deep rooted in data science that it's not a black box. The models don't hallucinate, which modern day large language models can hallucinate and have a lot of biasing. So that really also differentiates our data science focused models to deliver results that are really important for mission critical projects for utilities. There's just so less room for missing out a specific defect. And that holistically is our AI maturity index that we have established over the years. So one of the key things where we differentiate is our AI maturity is way ahead. We have invested a lot of time, resources, and then expertise into that section that it actually is a very big differentiation for us from other players and partners in this space. The second piece is we are not just an AI tool or a point solution. We are actually the intelligence layer for the utilities. And even beyond that, we are a workflow orchestration engine. What that means is not only are we generating massive amount of intelligence information for utilities through our AI models, but we are making them digestible enough for utilities. So they're feeding into utilities various ecosystems, whether it's GIS systems or asset management systems or work order management systems or data warehouses, data lakes in a much more digestible manner for utilities and a much more prioritized manner so that they can take proactive action and do proactive maintenance faster. So it's driving business value. But there is an element that we are not in the business of sending utilities just mass amount of information. We are actually sending them actionable insights, which is part of our insights orchestration engine. So all in all, combine all of that takes us from just being a product or a point solution to a solution provider approach where we are deploying enterprise platform that is solving a lot of different problems, business problems for utilities. And that on a whole differentiates us in the market heavily.
Mhm. So our AI maturity is one of the things that sets us apart. And you also mentioned that one of the ways that we are able to approach utilities is by saying we want to build this with you. And I know a lot of our new detections, model training is based on customer feedback and requests. I would love to hear more about how are we, or how do you decide from the technology side of things, one-off requests versus actually scaling the product? How do you navigate that while keeping the customers happy, but also keeping in mind that we have to create a product that's actually scalable outside of one-off customer requests as well?
Yeah, no, that's a great question when dealing with industrial AI applications and industrial enterprise SaaS. There's a lot of one-offs that come from these enterprise customers because they want to customize a product for their own use case, which is great. We do want to work with our customers, large customers. We want to build products with them. We want to partner with them and build products and product roadmap with customer-centric approach in mind. And we want to be product enabled, but customer focused when we are doing that. One of the key things that we established over the years is as we are taking in requests, we really are taking in requests from customers in terms of feedback, in terms of any kind of user focus group based approach. We're taking all of that back and then we are ranking that according to some of the internal scoring and rubrics that we have built. So at the end, the score comes out as a function of some of the features that we have established that is really important for the company at various stages. So some of the features, just to give examples, is we're looking at revenue potential of features. We're looking at market sizing. We're looking at is it a one-off or can we apply this to 10, 15 different other utilities that are having the same kind of pain point. We're looking at how does it impact our competitive growth and our competitive differentiation. We are also looking at how much time it takes to build, what is the technical feasibility. So all in all, holistically, that feeds to the machine and it spits out a score for us and tells us that, hey, this belongs in a product roadmap in the next 2 quarters versus this is something that we can push off till next year. So now we are taking a much more data centric, customer feedback and market centric approach instead of just putting things that are coming our way just ad hoc basis, which really puts a lot of pressure, stress, and strain on our teams as well as we are growing organization. So that's one great approach that we have taken. And obviously, our product roadmap has been evolving with customers in mind. Another great thing that we are setting up, and we'll be announcing those that soon, is we are also setting up customer user groups and customer advisory groups. What that means is we want to bring our customers together and we want to hear from them, hear what kind of problems they are facing, what are the new problem statements that are coming up. We want to hear what kind of solutions they are expecting. And then we can sit down with them, get their feedback on existing products and features, but also get to discuss and brainstorm with them what is the next generation of inspection and what is the next generation of AI assisted inspection looks like for them. What are some of the problem statements we can solve them as a solution provider for them? And then we can kind of scope that out into our product roadmap. So it's an ever growing kind of process for us, and we're laying down the frameworks for that right now.
Yeah, that's great. On that note of product expansion, I know Buzz recently announced that we're getting into utility scale solar, which is something I'm excited about. I came from solar myself before Buzz. I'd love for you to tell us more about that and what do you think about it as an opportunity for the product and the company in general?
Yeah, no, it's exciting. We are very excited to announce recently that, we have solutions for utility scale solar infrastructure, which is becoming a big topic for utilities as well. So utilities are still deploying a lot of solar because the economics make sense. A solar infrastructure really helps utilities to basically increase efficiency on power delivery and power generation. As we know, electrification goals are still expanding. Data center penetration is top of the mind for utilities. How do you supply electrons to all these heavier load kind of mechanisms or heavier loads in general? Solar has to come in the mix, right? Traditional power generation facilities can only offer so much. You need to have much more distributed energy resources that have to come into play. And there's a lot of capital that has been dispersed for these kind of this kind of infrastructure to be developed. So utilities are still expanding their footprint. We have some of the utilities going from 50 megawatts to 500 megawatts, and some utilities going from 500 megawatts to 2500 megawatts in the next 4 to 5 years for their solar penetration. A couple of years ago, what we heard from utilities is they are looking for an AI solution that can serve for different kind of infrastructure needs. We were already in transmission, distribution, and substation solutions, so we were offering for that infrastructure. But utilities kept coming to us and said, "Hey, can your AI models be retrained or retuned for another kind of infrastructure where there might be similar anomalies and defects, but there's also other areas for the models to expand to." One of the key things is when we build the platform and our models, our foundation and infrastructure was flexible enough to be able to take in newer use cases, newer applications. Our goal as a company, as we grow, always want to tackle every single use case, every single application, and every single infrastructure segment with a high depth of data science and then industry maturity. But at the same time, we also build our product in a way that it can be our portfolio of models or our portfolio of features can be expanded easily. And that's one of the another differentiations is our models will always be expanding towards bigger portfolio of infrastructure. So solar comes in one of the ways over there. A lot of utilities came to us saying that can we use thermal to detect any kind of thermal anomalies on solar panels? Can we detect solar PV panels? Can we map them? They're already doing a lot of drone inspections for solar panels, so they wanted to see if there's tools out there that can actually bring optimization for maintenance, can also help them with proactive maintenance, can also give them insights because these are massive solar farms that they have to serve to. So what we did was last year we built these tools and features in house. Then we deployed them for some of our anchor customers out there in the field. And they started seeing a lot of value from this, a lot of business value. Their time to maintenance shrank quite considerably. Efficiency for the internal operations and inspections teams increased. They had resource optimization. And more than that is with these kind of systems giving insights for proactive maintenance, now the utilities can extract as much power output from these solar panels which they were missing out if they had any kind of defects on them. So we are really excited to launch this solar solution, and we want to offer that to numerous different utilities. We already are working with some of the utilities, namely Ameren and others, in this kind of domain, and happy to share some of the successes, some of the case studies that we have seen with those utilities. But also happy to walk through what does this solution looks like. How can AI assist in solar inspections? So please reach out to our teams. They are happy to give more demos, but we are very excited about the growth of our product portfolio as well.
Yeah, we love giving demos, definitely. Um, and outside of solar, I'm curious, like, I mean, this type of analytics software can be applied to so many things, like an infinite number of things when you think about it. Um, what other opportunities do you see on the horizon for Buzz's product and our technology specifically? And how are you trying to focus in on those things specifically?
Yeah, no, we are definitely exploring newer use cases and newer applications with our existing portfolio of products, whether they are features on our Power AI platform or they are our AI models. How can we serve existing infrastructure and newer use cases on the infrastructure that we already have? So, one of the key ones is we recently have deployed our wildfire risk mitigation models and solution for one of the utilities down in southern Texas, and they're seeing value from that. We are able to find defects that are critical for causing any kind of fire risk. So pole mounted transformers that are overheated or damaged, or cross arms that are degraded, or there's arresters and cutouts that are defective, and other things as well. And then AI is finding out all of these defects in a prioritized manner for that utility. They're seeing value. So one of the key modules that we had launched recently is the wildfire risk mitigation module with our AI assisted inspections. Another big one that's coming on the horizon that we have scoped out and we've started work with a few utilities on that is autonomous drone capabilities is becoming a big topic for utilities as utilities take inspections to the next level, which we have seen over the years is they went from human operated drones back in 2017 to 2019. You have linemen, field technicians, drone operators flying the drone around their infrastructure, whether it's linear or confined infrastructure like substations. And then we progressed from human operated drones to more semi-autonomous capabilities where utilities gain access to the beyond visual line of sight clearances from FAA. They got their Part 107, Part 108 licenses. And now the drones can fly beyond visual line of sight. So there's semi-autonomous capabilities for utilities. And now we're entering the era which is the future of inspections, where utilities are putting drone docks, which is drone in a box, and housing them, installing them at substations mostly. And what this would do is now a utility can operate these drones autonomously without being in the field, so saving a lot of money and cost and time on truck rolls, but they can operate not only one at the same time, but multiple drones at the same time. So imagine a utility operator sitting in their ground station operating 50 drones at the same time from one laptop or one keyboard system, one ground station system. And these drones are doing autonomous inspections at substations. So every 1 hour or 2 hour interval, they would launch at the substation facility, scan the substation for any kind of security or safety breaches. They're looking at analog gauges. They're looking at different components. They're looking at thermal signatures of components as well, any kind of damages or defects on the thermal anomaly side of things. But at the same time, they're also flying and inspecting the transmission corridor upstream from the substation, and then even downstream from the substation, which is your distribution feeder lines. So now you have made your inspections much more frequent. Now you're able to cover more coverage and mileage of your inspections, and you're able to capture much more data. One caveat for this is that with more inspections comes more data along those lines. So the data increases 10x. And that's where they need more AI processing analytics tools for that. So that's where we are coming in, providing that capability to them to manage all the streaming data and batch imagery and videos into our system, and tell them where the defects are happening, where there are security breaches, where there needs to be work done even more. And so our systems would be the ones that will be kind of taking in all that streaming data from drone docs. So we are excited about this project and application. This is going to expand to numerous different utilities, and they'll start seeing the value for that in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's been really exciting to see the technological advancements in, especially in drone technology. I know my team specifically has been asking less, do you have drones, and asking more, what kind of drones do you have? So it's really exciting to see the industry starting to really embrace that technology. Just one more question for you. Any final advice for any customers or utilities out there trying to navigate the AI space today?
Yeah, no, it's a great space to be in. There's a lot of different partners and vendors out. There's a lot of great technologies out, and utilities have transformed how they procure software, how they procure obviously hardware they're used to, but also SaaS offerings and AI software offerings that has evolved over the years. Utilities now have much more accelerator programs that foster startups. So EPRI has a program, and then internal utility teams have programs that will fund pilot projects. So it's a great time for newer startups to come into the space and provide value with their technologies and solutions. For utilities itself, as there's more technologies out there, there's also a big emphasis on how to vet these technologies and what works for them, for their business cases, and what doesn't. Right. So one of the key things is they need to focus on a few early signs on how do you evaluate AI systems, what to look at, what metrics to measure, whether it's accuracy or speed of delivery of insights, or how does it tie to business value. So all of those things should be top of the mind for utilities when they're shopping around for AI vendors. So how do you evaluate AI systems? Second is, how do you pilot and deploy AI systems within your ecosystem or within your applications at the utility? So how can these AI systems deliver the max amount of insights and value to your business case? Which kind of other applications do they have to integrate with? And then also on the cybersecurity side, what are the protocols these AI systems and softwares have to follow to make sure that they are complying with data governance committees, they're complying with IT and cybersecurity governance, and all of those things. So the utilities have to keep that in mind while deploying these systems as well. And the third thing is, how do you measure the ROI from these systems, which is another big topic. Is like, you can deploy an AI system in place, it can be 95% accurate, but is it delivering value that can be translated into business ROI? That's a big question, right? So how do you measure ROI in the space? In our space, a lot of times, utilities would measure how much outage minutes we can prevent. So how much increase in reliability and resilience, also how much internal time saved would be useful. So one of the utilities that started using our system, they were able to do inspections for their 45,000 towers that comprises of 150,000 images. Our systems completed that inspection in 12 hours versus that would have manually taken them a year and a half, 2 years. And then we also send all those insights back into their SAP asset management systems, which basically streamline that for them, which would have taken them 2,000 hours to kind of do that manual data entry. So these are some of the metrics that utilities should keep in mind when they're measuring ROI for these kind of systems. And at the end, I will say that to utilities, keep an open mind about technology. I know utilities take time to deploy technologies, and over the years, I've realized why that is because these are mission critical projects, and if anything goes bad with the wrong technology, there's actual lives and that are at stake. So we want to make sure we vet the technologies really correctly, but we are happy to provide any kind of advice on how over the years what learnings we have learned with working with utilities and other partners. We actually have playbooks and guidebooks that we can share, and that's for industry. It's not about selling buzz, it's more about educating the industry what to look at, what to not look at. So we're happy to share those as well.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, I think that's all the time we have today. That was Vic, co-founder and CTO of Buzz Solutions on leading transformation. Vic, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ethan. It was a pleasure to be here.